Hello, everybody. Welcome to Paranormal Addicts, Season 2, Episode 25. My guest today is James Harbaugh. I'll start out like we always do. And James, just introduce yourself to everybody, and then we'll get rolling.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. My name is James Harbaugh. I'm from Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. I'm a writer and a lifelong paranormalist.
I like that introduction, lifelong paranormalist. I like that because I'm one of the old school ones too. I've been investigating now 3 years. So I started.
It's been about 25 for me.
Yeah. My first actual investigation I ever went on, I was 13, and so I was born with the. Nowadays I call them gifts, but as a kid I didn't necessarily call them gifts. But I was born with abilities, and so there's that a time in my life that I can't remember seeing and speaking to the spirits. So, so when I was 13, I actually decided, hey, I need to figure this out. So I got in. So I got into it. I checked out like all the books I could at the library. The books by the Warrens. Anything I could on parapsychology. Everything. It was interesting because being down here from Western Kentucky, I actually got called down to the principal's office for checking out these books. So like, should we be worried? I'm like, no, it's all good. So yeah, so that's the reason I claimed 13. So that would have been 1987. I like to age myself very much, but 1987 would have been my first investigation. It was an interesting investigation because it's a place that still gets me today because it's one of those things. It just doesn't make logical sense. So it has to be paranormal. It's a trailer, and the story has always been it was a murder-suicide situation. The husband was drunk. He killed his wife. So, but in 87, the house, the trailer had only been abandoned for like 5 years. And but every night at midnight, at exactly midnight, the air conditioner and the lights in the living room came on, even though there was no power, totally abandoned. And I witnessed it my whole life. Like when I would walk past, because my dad for a while lived in the same trailer park. So like when I would walk past this trailer at midnight, because I'd always make sure I walk by it at midnight, I always got like goosebumps. So when I was 13, I was like, well, that's going to be the first place I investigate. And of course, at that point, that was the old days, So only thing I had was my abilities, a flashlight, a voice recorder, and a notebook. That's all I had. So
yeah, I started out with a compass, a notebook, and a flashlight, and an old school, the mini mag cassette recorders. That's the first hit. I didn't even have a camera at that time.
I didn't either. I had when I took pictures, of course they were still pictures. I had an old Kodak desk camera. You remember those?
Yes,
that was that was my camera. So yeah. But I mean, I think that's the important thing though, because I mean, obviously nowadays I have the fancy tools, and so but I think it's important for everybody to understand that they're not really necessary.
You have to remember that it all started somewhere. I mean, they didn't have the EMF recorders, the EVP recorders, the video cameras, the IR lights back in the 1880s when the whole spiritualist movement started. They barely had cameras at that point.
No accordion.
Exactly. They had the old in types, but even those happened to catch some of the best evidence I've ever seen, like the Gray Lady of Rendham Hall. And things like that.
Yeah. Like you said, some of the best I ever saw was especially like ectoplasm and all that stuff. A lot of it was caught on the old school cameras. So yeah. So I definitely agree. And everybody had to start somewhere. So yeah,
exactly.
And I think looking back now, I just finished my first book. I'm actually in the process of looking for a publisher, doing all that stuff now. But I just finished. All that fun stuff, and so I just finished it. So of course it took a lot. On that, I did a lot of looking back, and looking back, if I'm honest, those early cases, I may have actually probably done a little bit more damage than I done good. But you have to learn somewhere, and like I said, I live, I was born and raised in Paducah, Kentucky, so in Western Kentucky, and I tell people all the time, but they have to remember about where I grew up. Not only am I in the Bible Belt, I'm in the heart of the Bible Belt. We have our church. We have a church in every corner. So growing up with my gifts, my abilities, I used to get a whole lot of tool of the devil, that kind of stuff. So I didn't really have anybody to learn from.
Sure, you had to learn on your own.
Yeah, back in that day, back in your day when we got started, it ain't like we could, that I consider all of them a good resource, but we didn't even have like Ghost Adventurers and Ghost Hunters.
Exactly. Right. We didn't have the shows to look for. Yeah. Yeah. We just had to.
We just had to figure it out. Like I said, I picked out books, and of course, I had Robert Stack on Unsolved Mysteries. That was my TV thing because he would cover the unknown, and I'd be like, I can relate to that. At least I know it's not just me. So when I moved away, I joined the military and stuff after I got out of high school, all that stuff, and that's actually when I dove into it, where I could actually make that my calling, because that's what I tell people. With me, my gifts, some people who don't understand stuff think me being a Christian and being a paranormal investigator is kind of oxymoron, and to me, it's not. Yeah, no, it's not. And because to me, my gifts are from God, and He gave them to me to use to help people. So that's what I use it for. So, but I mean, so once I moved off, I actually I decided I was going to become an educated investigator too. So I actually have a degree in parapsychology, and from West Georgia University, and then I have two theological degrees from Louisville Bible College, and then I'm actually a trained demonologist under Bishop Long in the old American Catholic Church, old U.S. Catholic Church. Yeah,
gotcha.
So not that everything's a demon, but I like having that training anyway. So that's a little bit about me. So let's start out with our icebreaker questions, even though we're already 9 minutes into the conversation. That's okay. It's my show. I do what I want.
Exactly.
So the first icebreaker question is a two-part question.
Okay.
And it's what is the favorite location that you've investigated, and what is your bucket list location you would like to investigate?
Oh, okay. That's a good one. The favorite location I've ever investigated no longer exists. It was the old Hilltop House Hotel here in Harpers Ferry. It's currently has been torn down, and they're in the process of putting up a new hotel on the site. I grew up in that hotel. It was pretty. If you've seen The Shining, I'm sure you have. It was pretty much like that growing up in the hotel, But that was my all-time favorite spot. I learned how to do it there. We used to watch the cameras in the security cameras and watch the orbs and things come across camera, see mists and things move across. That was how I pretty much got into it. And that and growing up here in Harpers Ferry, it's probably the most haunted town you've never heard of. Now my dream spot to locate is to investigate would be Poveglia Island in I think it's Italy. I don't know why something just draws me to that spot. Actually, there would be a two-part to that one. Poveglia Island is definitely first, but Lemp Castle is a very close second, very close. I'm fascinated by buildings and places that are older than the country that we currently live in.
Right,
That fascinates me. The amount of history that has transpired that we here in America have no clue about. Poveglia Island, those things happened before America was founded as a country.
right.
Same things as the hauntings in Lemp Castle. They date back to the medieval times, or excuse me, I can't remember the date. You have to forgive me. My history's a little rusty, but they go back a long way, older than the 1700s. But so there's a lot of places on that list, but those are the top two. Currently, I'm trying to get myself and a friend of mine's group. We're going to do hopefully next spring an overnight at TALA, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. I've been there. I've been there as a tourist, and we took the historical tour. And I don't know if you've ever been into a place that's actually sucked the warmth out of you, but that place did. When we went, it was a nice spring day. It was, the middle of May or March. And when we went in there, it was so cold. And walking around, you see the displays, the masks, the artwork, the just everything there, the headstones that are lined up against the wall. It's intimidating, it's frightening, and you get the sense that the place is haunted before you even walk into it.
Yeah, I've been to places like that, and in Trans-Allegheny, I've only been there. I've only been able to do the tours, like you said.
Right.
So it's definitely on my list to get there. I'm kind of like you as far as my favorite location. It's a place that you can't investigate anymore. It was actually shut down. We actually investigated it. It's been 3 years now, and when we got to investigate it, it just reopened because it had been shut down for being because it was a violent haunting. So they shut it down for 3 years, and when they reopened it, we got to be the second team to investigate it. And what I like to tell people, I did, the name of it is the Anderson Hotel. I tell people there's a couple things people understand about the Anderson Hotel. The first one is, we're not talking about like a Hilton or a best restaurant. We're talking about like a transit hotel. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing I tell people they need to understand. The second thing I tell people they need to understand is, in my opinion, my educated opinion, and with all my experience, the people who own the location, they want it to be violently haunted. The reason I say this, is when you go on the tour, like you do at every location. So when you go on the tour, they start showing you all these things. But the first thing that catches my attention is they still have the 5 verified suicides, deaths at the hotel. They still have 3 bloodstained mattresses.
Yeah.
See, that
to me, I don't like things like that. I think it's in bad taste. I think it calls the negative. And I really don't see the call for it. That's my personal opinion. I
agree with you completely. I agree with you completely. So then they also have a bloodstained bathtub, and then the most infamous room, or there's 2 that's really known, but the one that, when I tell the story later, you understand why this one sticks out to me the most. It's the room. So we have malicious spirits. Malicious spirits are a lot more common than demonic spirits. So when it comes to a malicious spirit, I say it all the time: if you were a dickhead when you were alive, you're going to be a dickhead when you're dead. And that's what this spirit is. He lived there. He was alcoholic, and he drugged himself to the point that he hung himself in the closet next to him. Well, all of his liquor bottles are still there, and they encourage you to bring him a bottle of liquor. We didn't bring him a bottle of liquor, but he actually ran prostitutes in and out of the hotel. So he was just, that's just the way he was. So,
Right.
so I'm going to come back to his story in a minute. I'm going to backtrack to the first room we came to. There's an antique bathtub, the old-fashioned ones with the claw feet. The story, the local legend on it was this 38-ish, 35, 38-year-old mother checked into the hotel purposely to commit suicide. Her husband and her son had just got killed in a mining accident, so that was her response. So her bloodstains still on the bathtub.
Right.
So I decided to do an EVP session there, and I'm a very respectful investigator. So I asked permission, and my response was I got yes and no. I'm like, well, I can't do both. So I get in there and we have a good EVP session for like 30, 45 minutes. Well, my rule is if the spirit tells me to get out, obviously I've been doing this a long time, so I'm not going to get out the first time. But out of respect, when they tell me it 3 times, I'll go ahead and move on. So eventually we got to her telling me to get out 3 times. So anybody that knows anything about the Anderson Hotel, their tagline to get people to come pay the money to investigate was they claim that their spirits bite. So I've been doing this. I've been doing this for a long time. At that time, I had been doing it for 31 years, and I wanted to call bullshit on that because I've seen a lot of stuff in 30 years. I've been pushed, I've been scratched, I've had things thrown at me, but biting is a whole different thing. That takes a lot of energy. So anyway, we're in the bathtub, and I start to get out because, like I said, I'm actually in the bathtub because that's how I do it. So I'm actually in the bathtub. So it's an old-fashioned bathtub, so I have to grab the sides. So as I grab the sides and pull myself out, I feel what feels like a really deep Indian burn on my calf. Sure. I mean, like a really deep one, and that's what it felt like. So then we went to our makeshift headquarters. We'll set up, and we have electricity. And when we looked at it, my calf, it actually looks like a double bite, almost like inhuman, almost inhuman. Actually, I actually got a tattoo of it, so I'd always have it with me. Let me see if I can get it on camera. There it is.
I see it.
Yep. That's it. So maybe
I can't hear you. Nope, not yet.
Okay, how about now?
There we go.
Okay.
Eureka.
Yep. A new microphone. So
gotcha.
But it's pretty, see.
It's nice. Yes, it lights it.
But so anyway, so we get to this room, and this room is like the one that sticks with me. Everybody has like something that sticks with them. So the story behind this room is really sad. This 18 or 19-year-old girl came all the way from Michigan, this little town in Kentucky, and she came there. Nobody really knows why or her backstory or anything. But what's interesting, it's one of the bloodstained mattresses. She ended up committing suicide and bleeding out there, and but what's area about it is with crayon, and I don't know why crayon. For some reason, with crayon, she drew pictures and wrote Bible verses.
I've heard of this story. I understand that she might have been. I believe they say that she might have been tormented by a malevolent spirits or something like that,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
she
yeah,
put
yeah.
those Bible verses on the wall to drive them away. That's
You're
what
right.
I've heard. I know that
Yeah,
story.
yeah, that's what they say. And only thing I can tell you, she does not like male investigators. So like, so I let the females communicate with her, and they got a lot more answers than I did when I tried. The only thing that we can figure out as far as why she came to Kentucky to begin with is she was in love with an older man, and they may have been married, and he ended the relationship. So she came to Kentucky. Now, originally, not to commit suicide. Originally, it was to start over again. But then, like you said, the malicious spirits attacked her,
Right.
and so that's sad. And then the room that came to be the one that stuck with me to this day. It's actually one of the stories I tell in my book. Actually, was the one we talked about earlier, where the guy uh, drug himself to death and he hung himself in the closet. And
Right. Right.
so we get up there, and at first it's just me and Dennis, the guys over there. We did it when the girls were in the suicide room, as we called it. So we went up
Sure.
there, and me being me, I decided to get into the closet where the guy hung himself. And as soon as I step in the closet, my energy is zapped for me. Dennis has to like pull me out of the closet. So we keep going. We didn't really have a whole lot more. Dennis did get pushed down, but and he's a big guy. But we decided, but something told me that he did not like females. So I radioed back to the girls because we were getting ready to rotate. They were getting ready to come up there, and I told them to. I'm like, I know you guys are getting ready to come up here. And I was like, and I'm not going to talk you out of it. I was like, but we come to find out his name was John. I was like, John doesn't like females. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. But I was like, as the lead investigator, if I don't warn you, I'm not doing my job. So I was like, just be
Right.
careful.
Right.
So my niece is on my team. At that time, she was 19. She's 21 now, but she was 19 then, 22 now. And so when she comes up the steps and she decides to use the prostitute angle to get the communication going, and she comes upstairs and she's like, "I'm 19 and cute. Can I get a job?" And the response we got, I still have this EVP. It's the clearest EVP I've ever captured in 30 years of investigating. The response was $50 a free room.
Oh my. That's quite a response. That is
Yeah.
definitely a class A. That would, and that at that point I'd be like, you know what? I think she's done. You
Well,
know.
they kept going, and they probably should have been done because it escalated from there. Like the girls kept getting fondled,
Right.
and not even just touched. They would get fondled, and then eventually Tiffany got grabbed. She got grabbed in
Yeah.
her. Yeah, so
Inappropriately.
inappropriately. So at that
Yeah.
point, for safety reasons, I ended the investigation. So we got a question. They said, for you, what's your favorite haunted story in Harper's Ferry?
Yeah, my favorite haunted story in Harper's Ferry. Oh, there's so many to choose from. Uh, it would have to be Screaming Jenny. It is I would have to say, the seminal ghost story of Harper's Ferry. It's the one here in town that everybody knows. Uh, I can tell it. I can sum it up right quick if you don't mind. That is,
Go ahead.
Screaming Jenny worked at the armory here in Harper's Ferry during the Civil War. Her husband fought on the Confederate side, and if you know history, so the Harper's Ferry changed hands so many times during the Civil War. Stonewall Jackson himself called it an indefensible hellhole. Um, but Screaming Jenny worked at the armory. Her husband fought on the Confederate side, and at the time this takes place, the Union Army controlled the town. Well, she was shunned and everything because her husband fought for the wrong side. One night, her in the hovels on Virginius Island, which is no longer there now, she was sitting by her small coal stove, and a coal popped out and caught her dress on fire. This is all legend. Obviously, nothing's been proven or substantiated, but the legend is her dress caught on fire and she tore off down the train tracks on fire, screaming. Now, the story is on certain nights in Harper's Ferry when it's cold, especially like December, January, February, you can see the bright ball running down the tracks. You can hear her screaming. And yeah, that is my favorite Harper's Ferry ghost story. It is, it's the one I knew as a kid. It's the one that I first heard that centered in my town. You know, it's not like it's the legend of Sleepy Hollow where it takes place in New York or any of the like the Bell Witch from your neck of the woods. It takes place here in Harper's Ferry. And once I got into that, I found out there were so many more. And it was just that, you know, it's what got me into it. It was the stories. It was the folklore of it that just pulled me into it. And yeah, so that was my favorite. So thanks for asking.
So I relate to that though. I mean, I'm a big historian too. I think you kind of have to be in the paranormal, but I'm really into Civil War history. I actually had a family on both sides, you know, being right here. So
As did I, yes, yeah.
Yeah, Cairo, Illinois is where my dad's family from, and of course that was the gateway to Kentucky. So that's where Grant had his headquarters at when he invaded Kentucky. So I got family on that side, and then I got on the Confederate side. I'm related to the Dukes, you know, Duke Tobacco at Duke University, and you know, so obviously they were all high-ranking Confederate officers, you know.
Right.
So yeah,
right.
I have a similar story to that. We actually got to investigate last weekend. I've actually been there twice now, but it's a location in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which Cape Girardeau, Missouri is, like I said, I spent Paducah, Kentucky is my hometown, but I spent my summers in Wycliffe, Kentucky, and Cairo, Illinois. So really, all three have to be my hometown. So growing up in Cairo, you know, Cape was the big city closest to Cairo. So you know, we always heard all the ghost stories of the Glen House is the name of the location. I mean, the Glen House is relatively well known now, thanks to, you know, TAPS investigating it and being a ghost hunters or whatever. But you know, growing up, I always heard about the lady in white. That's the story. That
Every place has a lady in white, and I think
exactly.
You know, I mean, it's a lady in white or a lady in brown or the lady in gray. Every place has a lady in white, and I think that is more a metaphor for a general haunting. You know, it can't be the same lady in white or anything. You know.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting is when we went there, this 1860s Spanish mansion. They call it a house, but it's a mansion. So when you get there, you know, they still have everything. What they get from the actual Glenn family, they have. But if they can't get actual Glenn family artifacts, they get period stuff. So when you go up to the stained glass window overlooking the road, there's a white wedding dress. And that right there.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm like, well, that's probably your lady in white there. But I mean, but we actually had some really good encounters there. We had enough. The first time was kind of hit and miss, but we had enough interaction that I knew I wanted to go again. And when we went the second time, it was completely different. Like, I mean, we talked to. It actually took kind of a dark tone. I'm doing some research now because based on what we got on EVP and we caught on the SOS and everything, it seems like maybe the patriarch of the family, Mr. Glenn, it seems like maybe he was a little bit abusive. Just the interaction we got. So the most famous resident of the Glenn house, the one that everybody still talks about, is Sarah Sally. I don't know why she went by Sally, but Sally Glenn. She was a daughter. She was beautiful. I mean, beautiful. And So the first time we went there, they showed me her picture, and 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 me being with my guest, I was just drawn to her eyes and just look. Even as pretty as she was, there was just something in her eyes that she was looking for stuff that's looking for answers. So anyway, her backstory is uh, she got married because she got married to somebody else with a lot of money. It was a big deal at the time. They had pianos flown in, organs flown in. I mean, it was a big wedding. Well, they were apparently happily married for a little while, a year or two anyway. Where Sally always wanted to be an actress.
Okay.
So she takes off to California. Nobody knows how she got the money. They don't know if the family got it or she just took off. Well, she gets to California. She almost immediately starts a relationship with a married guy. So she comes back. I'm trying to make this as short as possible. So she comes back, and then she divorces her husband. She goes back to California. That guy divorces his wife, blah, blah, blah. So, and then from there, it just gets tragic. She ends up being married like 5 times. She ends up committing suicide. So,
okay.
So she's the most known one. The reason she's the most known one is because her great granddaughter actually still lives in California, and she found some of the artifacts, some of her diary and stuff. And then she found out the Glenn House was still in operation as a museum, so they got connected. And so, but it seemed like all the money, it went from being a wealthy family to just tragedy after tragedy. Sarah's brother, his name was Garrett, and of course that was during the time when automobiles first came out, the first cars. And the Glenn family was either the first family or the second family, depending on who you believe, to have a car. They were either the first or second family to have a car in Cape Girardeau. So at that time, Garrett was young. He was probably 19, maybe 20. So he fell in love with the automobile. He started racing him and all that stuff, and that ended up being how he died. So this last time we were there, and Lisa, I'll get to your question in just a minute. I'm not ignoring you. So with this last time we got there, we actually made contact with Sally. Matter of fact, we carried on like a long EVP session with her. She actually ended up telling me I was cute. She told me I was cute.
Well, that's a nice thing to hear.
Yeah. She told me I was cute, but Dennis wasn't. She said Dennis wasn't cute, but I was. So anyway, we go upstairs to the nursery, which is the room that we have the most activity, and we start. We make contact. We'd already been up there once earlier, and with the SAS, you could see what looked like Mr. Glenn standing over me, either yelling at me or trying to intimidate me. And so we decided to go back up because that's what you do, So we get back up there, and we're having the EVP session, and we asked if it's okay. I had been carrying Sally's picture around with me this whole investigation, so we asked if it was okay for me to have Sally's picture with me, and the response we got was, "No, she's mine."
Oh.
No. So, and as soon as we got, "No, she's mine," that was in the male voice. In the female voice, we got, "Leave that girl alone."
So you had an interaction going between two spirits.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it kind of seemed like maybe the mother was trying to protect. It just seemed like So it's interesting. I have to dig into it some more. But that's what we do. So yeah. So let's get to Lisa's question, so she knows like I'm ignoring her. She wants to know, is your house haunted?
Very much so. It is. Yes. My wife Lisa and I live in a haunted house here in Harpers Ferry. It's been investigated by myself, herself, and Chesapeake Paranormal. In fact, on their website, their most viewed clip is from the investigation of our home. We believe we have 2 spirits here. That would be George and Maggie, or Margaret Cross, George is the 19-year-old son of Mr. Cross, Ambrose Cross, Ambrose Cross, the person who built our home. He died here in the 1800s of yellow fever. His wife Maggie died here in the late 1800s of natural causes. We believe both of them are here. George, we believe, lives in the attic, which is where I keep my comic book collection and everything. So he's quite comfortable up there. And since I've kept that up there, he's been rather quiet. And Maggie Cross, who haunts our stairway, she's a little bit cheeky because I only ever see her walk by the bathroom door when I'm in the shower. It's, you know, it is a completely residual haunting in our home. We are happy with the spirits here, Lisa and I. We couldn't be happier. You know, I grew up in a haunted home here in Harper's Ferry, about, I don't know, maybe 4 blocks from where I'm sitting right now. The first apartment I had as a bachelor, as a young man, which is exactly 1 block down the corner from me, was also haunted. It used to be a barber shop, and the owner lived above, and he died in the building. I have been living with the paranormal 24/7 pretty much all my life. And it's gotten to the point where I'm used to it. You know, we find that things go missing, and we'll say, okay, that's enough, George, give it back. And we'll turn around and they'll be on the stairs or on the table or something to that effect. So we just look at them as roommates who don't exactly pay rent. You know, we like them. We like George and Maggie. They've been here long before we were, and they'll be here long after we're gone.
I like that. I like that attitude or take. You know, I tell my team especially, but you know, when I do talks and you know, when people ask me, you know, that's one thing I point out to people. I'm like, you have to realize, you know, the spirits with that's their home. Technically, we're trespassing on their place, so we have to treat them with respect. You know, that goes to the whole provoking thing. You know,
I don't like provoking. I've never felt the need to do it. I've never personally done it. I've seen things where it can go very badly, especially in places like Moundsville or Pennhurst, places where violence was inherent and where things like that didn't go over well, you know, because if you try to buck up in Moundsville, let's say, you know, one of the most notorious prisons on the East Coast, if you did that there, you could very well end up hurt, because any spirits that are lingering around Moundsville, I don't think I'd want to tangle with, you know. They just, I wouldn't try to intimidate something that can't be intimidated.
Right. Yeah, you don't know what you're dealing with to begin with. And, you know, this is what I tell people. This is my bottom line on this. I wouldn't go over to your house, yell at you, and expect it to be a positive interaction. So why would I do that to something I don't even know what I'm dealing with? You know. So we got another question, James, that says, do you still have the picture of the boy in the back room?
It's not a boy, Brianna. It's a lady. Yes, I do still have it. I don't show it around a lot because it is, to me, it's very personal. It's also the Holy Grail. It's a full apparition that I caught completely on accident. I've showed it to several people, and I've always been ridiculed. Oh, that's not real. You could have faked that, you know. And this was the time I didn't know anything about smartphones. I had my phone was a little flip phone when I took this picture, you know, but I do still have it. And I can tell the story of this photo. It's great. I was sitting in the back room. I lived here in the same house I'm in now, but I was single, living alone. I basically just used the back room. Okay, that was just the one. It had a library with the TV stand, a bathroom, a kitchen. I barely left that room when I was living here by myself. Well, one night when my cat, Sheldon, and he's down here about at my feet, when he was very young, he sat there at the door and just started looking at it and meowing, and he arched his back and he hissed. So I'm like, you know what? I just grabbed my phone and took a picture, took another picture. And after he ran away, I took a third. And that third picture, I looked at it, and I'm like, there's no way. There's just it's a picture so good, even I have trouble believing I took it. It's that, it's one of those. But yes, I absolutely still have it. I will never get rid of it. It's going to be framed and printed,
I have a similar story. One of those, like you said, piece of evidence so good you have to convince yourself it's real, and then
exactly.
So I was at Octagon Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. Everybody knows Octagon Hall, one of the most haunted places in the South. So so going back to Civil War history again. So we were investigating Octagon Hall, which obviously is one of my favorite places. Being from Kentucky, I love Octagon Hall. So we were there. We were there this time, and we were actually down in the basement. We were actually doing EVP session in the room that they had turned into the family library. So we're there just doing. But something tells me to look up. And when I look up, I see a full body apparition, not just standing in front of the steps, but pacing.
Okay.
Back and forth. So I catch it in video, and I'm talking about 15 to 20 seconds, not just like a flash like you usually get. This is a 15 to 20-second video of what looks like a little girl pacing in front of it. So I immediately, yes, I still have it, of course. It's on, if you go to a video from Octagon Hall on our YouTube page, it's on there. But I immediately get up and try to debunk it, because I'm like, this is too good to be real. And
right.
Of course, I couldn't debunk it. So it's still a really good piece of evidence. I even had other teams try to help me debunk it. Like one of my good friends, they would go Night Song Paranormal. They were actually going to Octagon Hall the next weekend. So I sent the video to her, and I was like, see if you can get anything like this.
Yeah. Can you tell me how is this wrong? Yeah. And the photo is very much the same, and it's clearly an old woman. She's in period garb. And it's very clearly knowing what I see. At the time I took this photo, I didn't have the history of the home. I knew there was something weird going on because it was a big, old, empty house. But after I got the history on the home, when Chesapeake Paranormal did their investigation here, when I got the history, I put it all together. I'm like, oh, that's Maggie Cross. That's exactly who I caught on that photo.
Yeah. And I had a similar experience. I mean, because once I couldn't debunk it, I looked into the history, and of course, anybody that knows anything about Octagon Hall, there was an 8-year-old girl. Depending on which version of the story you believe, she was either a slave girl that died in a fire, from the winter kitchen, or she was one of the daughters of the family. But anyway, there was that 8-year-old girl and like I said, that's what she looked like, was 8-year-old girl. So it's her history and everything. So our next question is actually a good one, because it was actually the second icebreaker question that we didn't get to. So since somebody else asked it, so we'll ask it now. The question is, what is your favorite piece of equipment for investigations? One modern tech and one old school.
Oh, okay. My favorite piece of equipment, simply because I've never, had. I'm sorry, somebody is trying to get in the spotlight there. Apologies. My favorite piece of equipment for investigations at this time would be my IR camera. I use it all the time, mainly because I've never had one before, and this is the first time, in my experience that I've had one. And that would be my modern tech. Now, my favorite old school would be a compass. I find compasses, they detect an electromagnetic field a little bit better than the modern EMF meters. They can detect minor fluctuations. I mean, minor that, just the smallest quiver of the needle could, give you an indication of something. And that is something that I learned with. So that would be my favorite piece of old school tech. And if you want to get really old school, I guess you could say, oh, excuse me, man, that would have to be the magnetic recorder, the little magnetic tapes. Those were the best. I mean, if we're going on the theory that they operate on magnetic energy, if we're going on, if you're detecting electromagnetic fields, all this stuff, then a magnetic tape to me makes some more sense for the spirit to be able to imprint its voice. And in my personal experience, I've had more success with those.
We actually still use the old school.
I still have one in my kit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have the fancy modern voice recorders, and we still have the old. So yeah. So with my team, the little catchphrase that I use when people ask me to describe my team, I tell them that we use the old school. We use the old school technique with the new school technology because we combine everything. So yeah. So when I ask this question, as an icebreaker question, I usually say, "What's your favorite piece of equipment?" But you can't say yourself because obviously we're the best.
No, I'm not sensitive. I've never claimed to be sensitive. I'm just not. I'm technical. I use cameras. I use the gear. That's what I do. I've never relied on. Oh, I feel like I've walked through webs. I feel like there's something behind me. Now those things can lead to something. You got to have to trust your intuition, but I don't consider myself a piece of equipment.
Right. So I do, but I'm a scientific guy too. So and people would say why? So to me, so this is a science. I know it's a pseudoscience, but it's still a science.
Yeah.
And eventually, it might go. I would like to one day see it recognized as actual science. So that's how I investigate. Plus, to me, it's easier if I'm doing like a residential investigation. It's easier for me to go to a homeowner and be like, "This is what I captured on video."
Exactly. Right.
If I have actual evidence, that's a lot easier than me going up to the homeowner and being like, "Well, this is what I feel is going on." She don't care, But if I have that picture. So my go-to piece of equipment right now, I have a few. So I'm a really big fan of the Paratech VM5. If you know what that is, to me it's the best ITC out there. It's so much better. It's so much better than the Obelisk. It's so much better than the Periscript. I've been using it for 3 years. It's not just random. It's not just a random. And that's the point to me because when I add a piece of equipment to my toolkit, I test it.
Oh yeah, you have to. You have absolutely have to.
I test it for at least 3 investigations, and I like it when I have 2 pieces of equipment that correspond with each other. So one of my newest pieces. Yeah. So one of my newest pieces of equipment I got is it's an Apple box, which is made by Ghost Scare. It's just a fancy yes/no box. But Rob he makes really good equipment, and he pretty well his goal is to take out any false positives on it. So if you get a yes/no with it, it's a yes or no.
Correct.
The only thing I warn people with the Apple box is you have to remember you can turn the voice on or off. If you have the voice on, don't forget about it, because if you forget about it at 2:00 in the morning in an empty building, you hear Dave Schroeder's voice say, "Yes." It's kind of
yeah, it'll wake you up real quick.
So this is the Paratech. So I like those 2 pieces. I like those 2 pieces of equipment together. I use them together a lot. And then the piece of equipment I really like, because you can't fake it, is I love my thermal camera. Because thermal camera.
I don't have one yet. I don't have one yet, but I plan on getting one. Now, another piece of equipment I like, we have see, there you go.
I'm going to give you a piece of a piece of advice here, James. When you go get one, don't get one of the $400 or $500 ones like everybody else says you do. Go to Harbor Freight. That's where I
Oh,
got
get
this one.
one of the like the engine ones.
Harbor Freight, $197, lifetime guarantee, rechargeable,
Right.
and every time I use it, when I take it on investigations and with other people, the ones that have the fancy ones, they're like, "We want yours." I'm like,
There you go.
so yeah, yeah. Here's the Echo box if I can get it open.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the newer beers, those are the newer ones. Those are my go-to. Uh, some of the other ones that are popular right now, I'm still kind of 50-50 on. I'm not a big SLS person.
Yeah, I don't like the SLS. I think you can get too many false readings on them. I
Right,
think the
right.
camera tries to read stuff that isn't there, and it gives you that weird thing. And everybody's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, there's something there." I'm like, I think it's basically the camera trying to read the background.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
I see a lot of that.
I've seen it pick up piles of clothes, So I
Exactly.
mean, yeah. So yeah. Yeah. And so, but I'm never going to be that person who tells another investigator not to use anything. This is my equipment speech I give everybody. Every piece of equipment we have can be useful if it's used properly and you're trained properly. So you have to know every piece. You have to know the weaknesses, the strengths, the false positives. You have to know everything about the piece of equipment. Then it becomes useful.
Right.
That's
Then,
just
yeah,
like
exactly. Otherwise, it's just a toy.
right. That's just like I guess a big debate in the field now is phone apps. Can a phone app be useful? What's your take on that, James?
Well, I do have a couple. I wish I could say, oh no, I don't use them, but I use the Solomon app. There's one app. It plays I believe it plays the Lord's Prayer forward and backwards, and it does it randomly. It's just like a spirit box. It just uses a certain prayer, okay, and it just plays it forward and backwards, and that way, I've used it a couple of times. I haven't had any real success with it, but I haven't had any real failures with it either. It's to me, anything that can produce static is just as effective as a spirit box, be that an app, a radio, a CB, whatever. It's the white noise they're using. That's how I see it.
I agree with that. So I have a spirit box and I have a portal box. I have so me personally, I don't use apps. Am I anti-app? No. Don't.
Oh no,
I allow people. I allow people on my team to use apps, but it has to be ones that I approve because I don't. Uh, so here's my bottom line on apps, and then we'll go to Brianna's next question. So we have to think about it like this. If we're going to think about it as a scientific process, let's think about a phone from a scientific process. Phones nowadays are just miniature computers.
That's all they are. Yes.
So why wouldn't they be useful? Now, a phone would never be able to give you an EMF reading because it produces too much EMF on its own. But otherwise, you know, for spirit boxes, for any of that stuff,
Agree.
Yeah. So that's my stance on it. So
Yeah.
okay. So next question is: Do you plan to write about your experiences?
I am actually writing about my experiences. I'm putting together a book now. It's called "Where the Mountains Dream of Ash." I'm really proud of it. It's in the process. I will be publishing hopefully in the spring. I'll be self-publishing. I haven't found a publisher yet, but I am writing about it. It's been a lifelong work, and it's all coming together slowly, but it is coming together. Yes, and that's what Goblin Wood Press is about. That's it's my blog, but it's basically a chalkboard for the book. Things you see on there may or may not end up in the book, but it is a good idea to give people an idea of what I write, how I write, and whether or not they want to read it.
I understand the process because, I'm probably about 85% it's finished with my first book.
Right.
And I never wanted to be an author. I never wanted to be a podcaster.
That's just,
I never wanted to be a podcaster. Honestly, only thing I ever wanted to be was an investigator. And I am the most modest person you'll ever meet. I've been lectured on my own show because I'm so modest. But to me, I consider myself a nobody. That's all I want to be. I don't care. But I've been asked so many times to write a book. I finally wrote a book, almost wrote a book, pretty much.
Right. My family's asked me to write a book too, and I hear you guys. I'm writing a book. I hear you.
The name of my book is Don't Buy Generic Batteries, and it's probably not a demon. Memoirs of a Paranormal Investigator. So nice. I know it's a long title, but it's catchy, and I
like it. I like it. Don't buy it. I like it. I'd read it.
I'm self-publishing too, so that's kind of the process I'm on.
Well, I think self-publishing is easier because you can get it out there quicker. And I anybody looking to publish the first time, I would recommend it simply because it's easier. It really is,
And you maintain all the ownership. You don't have to worry about all that.
Exactly. And the success or failure of it is on you. And I appreciate that in and of itself.
Yeah. And I recently got signed to an agent. I don't know why I need an agent because I'm a nobody, but I recently have an agent. So, because I used to do a lot of paracons and that kind of stuff. I used to speak a lot, but I had to take 3 years off of everything because I had to have brain and spine surgery. So, and since I've been back, I've not spoken in the events. I still go to them. I went to, matter of fact, I was just at Smoky Mountain Terror, 2 months ago, and I actually host my own event here in Western Kentucky, and then that's going to be September 27th, and then in October, the first weekend of October, I'm going to be part of Rock Island. So I still do the events, but I'm going to start speaking again, and that's what the agent's for. She's like, I already have people asking about you. She's like, so I'm like, that's fine. I was like, if I have to go a long ways, just tell them to pay for my travel and my hotel. I'm like, I'm not really worried about the rest of it. I was like, I'm not big enough to make money. She's like, with your story, she's one of the ones that lectured me. She's like, I understand you like to remain humble, but she's like, you don't realize how many people already know who you are. She's like, I've already had people hitting me up, and that's kind of the way it was when I was at Smoky Mountain Terror. I probably spent 15 minutes the whole weekend in my booth because the rest of the time I was socializing with people. So I actually probably spent 2 hours and 15 minutes because I did do the podcast live two times during the weekend. But other than that, I was socializing with everybody, but to me, it's important to remain humble because I want to promote the field and promote other people. We had another team that was down there, and I'm not going to mention them because they're not worth it. But there were some of these YouTubers. They were charging $60 for an unsigned picture. $60. Really? Yes. So me being me, I called them out on it in front of everybody. I just got them out of it. So the response was, and I quote, "That's fair." So that was the response. So I will say that to me, I got some professional courtesy. Professional courtesy. If that's I mean, they were nice to me. One, one, uh, one of my team members' sons is a big fan of this team, so
Okay.
so they sent me a bunch of bracelets and autograph stuff for him, and they didn't charge me. So they were nice to me, I guess, as a professional courtesy.
Right.
But I have a problem with them charging the public $60. Why? It shouldn't make any difference to me. I mean, if you get $60, but to me, it makes the field look bad. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, it makes sense.
that's my problem with it. So I'm never going to call, but if they can get it, more power to them. I'm never actually going to call out somebody unless they're faking stuff or they're making it harder, personally, on me or other teams. And we do have a YouTuber team that does that. And one of these days, they're probably going to sue me, but that's okay. They actually make it harder on me. They actually make it harder on me, not just me, but all paranormal investigators, because I went to 3 locations last year where they no longer allow you to go live, or they no longer allow you to release videos without it being approved by the location, specifically because of this one team.
Really?
And, yeah.
That's a shame. See, that's a shame that stuff like that still happens.
And this same team, they also bought 100 location, and they tripled the price to investigate it.
Wow.
So I'm not going to say the name, so I'm recording. But I will say that my good friend calls them the Spice Girls of the paranormal field.
Gotcha. I think I know who you're talking about. We'll keep it between us. That's okay.
So, all right. So this is one of my favorite rounds. So you ready? We're going to do a speed round. I actually have two speed rounds. So the first one is we're going to discuss different kinds of locations.
Okay.
And you give me your opinion on whether you investigate them, if you've investigated them, and for this round, like a jail and a prison is different because they're different places. A hospital, and an asylum is different. Okay.
Right, I got
it. So let's start out with cemeteries. Do you investigate cemeteries? What's your take on it?
I wouldn't investigate a cemetery. I don't think there's anything there. Anybody in a cemetery or a graveyard, for that matter, would be at peace. If there is a haunting there, I would think it would be tied to the land, not any graves there.
So I agree. I think sometimes I think I'm on the outside with that opinion in the field, but yeah, to me, there's no reason for them to be there.
Place of peace, they're at rest.
Yeah, they didn't die there. They didn't live there. So
exactly.
So if they are there, they're at peace. So leave them alone. Now there are exceptions. Like we have a cemetery here that before it was a cemetery, it was a Civil War basic training camp.
Exactly. Now, see, something like that would have residual energies to pull from, I would think.
And they had 5,000 soldiers died of smallpox, meningitis, whatever, before they even went to battle. So there's so that I'm okay with. And then we have a interesting cemetery that dates back to 1816 out down here, which is older than the state. But
right, exactly.
But it's established, and I don't really know if the activity is from the cemetery, but I've caught on camera what could be best described as a slender man, just a black apparition walking around in the field, in the woods behind the cemetery. And what's interesting about the cemetery is once you go into the cemetery, no wildlife enters the cemetery. No bugs, no squirrels, nothing. So it's just kind of odd. Yeah. And I'm not the only person who observed that. I observed it, and then it was actually shared with me by. What's interesting is here in Paducah, Kentucky, even though we're not that big of a town, we actually have 3 relatively well-known paranormal investigators from Paducah. So, one is me, if you consider me well known. And then probably the biggest one we have from Paducah is Gavin Kelly.
Okay.
So Gavin's from Paducah. He's a good friend of mine. He's probably my best friend in the field.
Nice.
When him and his wife, when they found out, Paula, when they found out we came back from the cemetery, they sent me a message and they're like, "Ain't it odd? How there ain't no bugs in there?" So I mean, it's not just me. So and then the third one from Paducah is Trevor Faith. Part of Get Haunted, part of Haunted Faith. Yeah. So Trevor's also from Paducah. Trevor's.
Oh, okay.
I call Trevor my little brother because he's so much younger than me. But he's a good guy. I actually went on an investigation with him He actually went on an investigation with us one time, and we actually got the police called on us, so that was fun. The next kind of location. Let's move on to schools. How do you feel about a school?
I've never investigated a school. I've never done a haunted school before. Again, I think that would have to do a lot with the land and not the building itself. I've never really known a school to have any haunting worthy tragedy, other than the tragedies that happen daily in our country, other than that, I've never encountered a haunted school. I've never investigated one. I know of a couple in the area, but again, I've never investigated a haunted school. I would.
So we're kind of on the same page there too. So here's my thing with schools. So every school you've ever been to in America has the same urban legend. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So and so hung themselves in the bathroom. Blah blah blah. It never happened. It may have happened somewhere one time, but not in every high school in America ever.
And that's a lot. Says a lot about us as a people, that we all share that same common folklore. No matter whether you're in Pasadena or Leesburg, Virginia, there's always that haunted school with the exact same story somehow.
So with that being said, like you hinted to earlier, I would love to investigate my high school. My high school is no longer high school; it's a middle school now. But my high school was the location of the first major high school shooting pre-Columbine. So it's the one that started. I graduated from Heath High School, which was the first major. That was the first major high school shooting. I actually knew the ones that got killed, the ones that got shot. I knew the guy that got shot that did the shooting. So I would love to investigate that if I'm not too close to it. With me knowing everybody, I may be, but I actually knew Michael. That's a shooter. I actually knew him because his girlfriend was I was her youth leader. So he came with her to all the meetings and stuff. And so I knew him. The week before the shooting, we actually did the Macarena together in the middle of Steak and Shake.
Oh, Lord. That's see, with a personal connection like that, if I had a personal connection like that, I would definitely jump into an investigation. For that reason, you yourself would be the trigger object.
Yeah. And I, not that it matters, I guess, really, but to me, I've never bought the reason that the reason of the shooting. He was bullied, blah blah blah. I know too much, I think, to buy that, because he came into the school and he shot at the prayer group that met before the school. Well, his girlfriend Amanda had just broke up with him the night before, and she happened to be a member of the prayer group. So to me, that's, you see what I'm saying? So yeah. But I mean, he's in prison for the rest of his life. But I mean, I would like to know if there has to be at least a residual, if nothing else, though. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. There would have to be something, I would think.
So let's move on to hospitals.
Yeah, I've investigated a couple hospitals in Florida in my early 30s. They're intense. Hospitals, I think, are a prime breeding ground, I guess you could say, for the paranormal. Uh, there's tragedy, there's happiness, there's sadness, joy. There's the whole range of emotions that transpire within those walls every single day. And for that reason alone, once a hospital is closed down, abandoned, whatever, I would, yeah, absolutely. I absolutely. And they can be super intense. But my most frightening experience of my young life, we were in a hospital in Florida, and I was young and dumb and still didn't, know what I was doing. And we had wandered into the basement, into the sub basement, and into the old morgue area, and it was frightening because out of nowhere we got the scent of roses, and I don't mean live roses, I mean dead, rotting roses, and it's a very distinct smell. If you've ever gone behind a florist shop after they've closed and thrown stuff out, it's a super distinct smell, and it just scared me. It scared me so bad. That was the most intense experience, and it happened to be in a hospital.
So yeah, we agree again. So and it's like you said, to me, hospitals, like you said, they see the beginning of life, they see the end of life, they see everything in between. So so I think they come, like you said, they can become kind of like a safe spot for spirits. So they may
Yeah,
not, they may,
not even
they may
the
not.
same, the energy is so contained, so thick there that it's easy for them to draw from, because that's, let's say that's where they expired. Well, the energy is so strong there, they can just stay there. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
yeah,
and they may, and I don't think they always stay there, but I think a lot start out there, and then they might move on to their house or whatever. But that's their first safe place. So we have a hospital here in Cairo. Going back to Illinois. Anybody that knows anything about Cairo? Cairo is a real life, living ghost town. Uh, during the 50s, 60s, Cairo was actually a significant city. It was probably about 50,000 people back then. It was
wow,
actually supposed to be like the biggest town in the area, bigger than Paducah, bigger than Cape, but it got destroyed by racial riots,
okay,
which is kind of odd with it being in the north. But a lot of towns, uh, they rebounded from racial riots. Cairo didn't. It completely destroyed the town. Now it claims 3,000 people, but I don't even think there's 3,000 people there. So they have a hospital there that's abandoned. It's been abandoned since 1988.
okay.
So
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 within
we
recent memory,
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was actually a patient there in the emergency room because I dislocated my shoulder playing baseball. So I remember. So my mom was born there, my aunts were born there, my dad was
exactly.
born there. So we use it as a training ground because my team's a large team. We have 15 members on my team, so we train there. And like I said, it's been abandoned since 1988, so it's completely gutted. No, everything, all the wiring's been removed, everything. So we've got the highest ever EVP I've ever got was 134.8, and it was
Wow.
there. And what was interesting is it was followers. So we would get like 134, we'd get an 88, we'd get a 76, and it was leading us towards the basement, the morgue, like you said. And at this time, the morgue was flooded. So we was on the steps, and I asked it point blank. I said, "Are you trying to trap me in the morgue?" And the response was yes. And so that was intense. And then that same day, I took a picture with a thermal camera. We was on the third floor, and I took a picture. And me, Dennis, and Denise were the only three people there that night. And when I took the picture, there was a picture of Dennis, there was a picture of Denise, and there was a heat signature perfectly shaped like a human that appeared to be like a 6'2"
Right.
gentlemen. Yeah. So so hospitals definitely active. So let's move on to churches or religious buildings. Whether it's a tabernacle, churches.
Again, I've never investigated a church, not an active church. I've investigated several uh, uh, ruined churches, but nothing, no active churches. And I only think say hello. There you go. All right. So uh, that's a tough one. It really is. And that's simply because I'm an atheist. I'm not a religious person. Um, Churches to me just don't seem like places that, for lack of a better word, should be haunted. If you know that's just how I see it. Um, Now, places that like in England, Scotland, Ireland, in Europe that have a history that are so old, where some massively traumatic events, some massively historical events, wars, battles, purges, the Inquisition, things of that left such a scar on the land. Churches in those areas, I think, would be more prone to paranormal activity. But I don't know. Again, that's a tough one for me. Uh, I've only encountered one church that's been purported to be haunted, and when we investigated it, it turned out to be a lot of things that could be easily explained, like pipes banging in the attic. They thought were footsteps, or the cold creaking the windows together. Sounds like somebody knocking on them. Things like that. Churches are tough for me personally. Again, I grew up Catholic, but I'm an atheist now, or not even atheist. I'm agnostic, I guess. Leave the wonder in it, the maybe. But yeah, so I don't know. That's a tough one.
So that's really the first one that we kind of disagree on, and because I don't really think it's really disagreeing because, like you said, it's a tough one. You don't really know. So to me, as we've already established, I consider myself a Christian.
Right.
But even taking that, even from a church standpoint, but if it's somebody that passed away and they grew up, if they were religious, a church could be a safe place for them before they. So to me, I've never investigated a active church. I don't think I would. I think that's like a respect thing,
I think so too. Yes, I agree 100% on that.
But I've investigated a couple of abandoned churches, and
Again,
even
I've
one that
done the
was
same.
even one that was actually in a cemetery. So I think it kind of like a hospital. It may be a place where a spirit would go because they think it's a safe place before moving on somewhere else. So maybe not.
Maybe maybe it's just a place they liked. I mean,
Right.
because I've been in. We've been in the cathedrals in England and London, and they are just breathtaking spaces. I mean, we have a cathedral here, St. Michael's. It's a Catholic cathedral, and although it's modern, it is still just awe-inspiring. So places like that,
And like a Hindu shrine, they're like that. They're the Mormon tabernacle. So it could be a place. Um, yeah. So maybe okay. So let's talk about an asylum.
I absolutely believe asylums. I think they would, right underneath prisons, would be at the top of the list. Would be the most ripe for paranormal activity, simply because of the atrocities that happened within those walls. I mean, sure, they were places of healing, but they were also pretty horrific for the time. If you think about some
Even
of
the healing, even the techniques they use to heal. Yeah.
exactly. So asylums, absolutely haunted. I'm not going to say every one of them, but I mean, they are definitely in the top two.
Yeah, so I just recently went back to Waverly Hills,
Okay.
and and,
See, that's on my
everybody.
bucket list there.
Well, if you can make it to Kentucky in February, you can go with us.
I might be able to do that.
All right, we'll talk about that off camera.
There you
so,
go.
so yeah, so the thing is, I'm sure I'm sure some of the people were there actually trying to help people, maybe, but I mean, even the treatments were torture. Lobotomies. Whoever thought that would be a cure? And then electroshock therapy. So yeah. One thing I remind people when we talk about asylums, so uh, if it's an asylum that had kids, a lot of times if you get somebody pulling on you, it's not necessarily a malicious spirit. It could be just somebody trying to get your attention because that's the only.
Agreed.
So, yeah, some of them can't. Some of them couldn't talk. Some of them couldn't. So that was their way of getting your attention. So people have to realize that. So let's go ahead and talk about prisons now.
Yeah. there's no question. I mean, it's that's just a flat yes. I've been to Moundsville. I've been to Eastern State. I've been to several. I want to go to Brushy Mountain, but man, prisons are just and they're so intense because of the violence and
Right.
for no other reason other than that. Prisons aren't known for being places of healing like asylums or things like that. They're not hospitals where people go to hopefully get through something. Prisons are there to reform you or kill you. I mean, let's be honest. When we went to Moundsville, my wife and I went to Moundsville. We went to a paranormal conference there, and we ended up taking the historical tour just for grins and giggles. And it was just some of the just walking through the maximum security. I cannot imagine what it was like to be actually incarcerated there, 3 people deep in those cells. Because man, I'm going to tell you what, I felt it was the only place I felt. And I'm a big guy, I'm 6'6", 280. I felt threatened. Every cell I walked by, every cell I went into just to poke around, to look at the artwork the prisoners left on the walls, I felt threatened. I felt like I shouldn't be in here. I need to go. And so yeah, prisons, no doubt at all.
Yeah. So I've done several too. Like you said, I've done smaller ones like Scott County and down in Tennessee, uh, and it was an interesting one because, like you said, I'm only 5'10", but I'm built like I was a pro MMA fighter. So I don't intimidate easy. And I felt that they didn't want me there. Uh, and then I've done Brushy. You said that's when so Brushy was interesting to me because the place that I got the most activity at Brushy was in the mess hall, the cafeteria.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess that would be where a lot of the fights would have taken place, places
Yeah,
like that, common areas.
yeah, because that's where they got to actually interact, in the cells and just in the stuff. So in my bucket list location, I got several like just like you, but like my bucket list location that might actually possibly maybe happen one day is Alcatraz.
That would be a good one.
Yeah. And what's interesting, everybody always looks at Alcatraz as the prison, but people tend to forget that before it was a prison, there was a native, there was a fort, and then before the fort, there were Native American tribes that lived on the island. So
Okay.
you have all kinds of history. So okay, here's our last speed round type thing. So this one we talk about the different kinds of hauntings, and you give your opinion on them, and if you
Okay.
whatever you want to talk to about. So we start out, of course, with residual. What's your opinion on a residual haunting?
I think residual is probably the most common haunting. I think that's the one that I think residual hauntings are responsible for 98% of the hauntings. I believe that firmly. People may mistake a residual haunting for something intelligent because they happen to catch it doing something at the same time it was supposed to. That's my opinion. I think residuals. Yeah, that's how I feel. I think residuals are the most common type of haunting. I really do. I mean,
I mean, that's always been the popular belief, So my residual story, one of the places I've investigated a bunch of times from Paducah is the Metropolitan Hotel.
Okay.
The Metropolitan Hotel, short history. It was the African American hotel during. Because they didn't say African American, but I'm trying to be politically correct. So it was everybody stayed there. It was it's part of the Chitlin Trail. So I think Wilson from Joshua Gibson, all the Negro baseball players, the Harlem Globetrotters, all the singers, James Brown, Fast Domino, Ike Tina, everybody stayed there. So so the most known spirit there is residual. It's believed to be the owner of the hotel. She was an interesting character to begin with because she was a black business owner when you didn't have. She was a black woman business owner back when you didn't have black women business owners. You didn't have women business owners. You didn't have. So she always wanted to own the hotel. She tried to talk her husband into opening the hotel, and he wouldn't do it. So when he died, she just opened it in his name. So she's believed to walk down the staircase, 1101. I have no idea why 1101, but 1101, that's what she does, is she walks down the staircase. And it's the old-fashioned staircase. So I've investigated
grand staircases.
Yeah. I've investigated the Metropolitan Hotel a dozen times. No exaggeration. I've hosted public investigations there. I know the hotel well. So about the 10th time I investigated, we investigated with a film crew from Belmont University in Nashville. They investigated with us. When she came up there, that was an interesting experience, both positively and negatively, because you have these college-age girls who were not taking it as seriously as I did, and as I would like to them have. And, like they would just start having a dance contest in the middle of the paranormal investigation.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, we wind down, and every investigation I've ever done there at 10:55, I make everybody stop all investigations, and we all come down to the bottom of the stairs to see if we can catch the residual. Well, I had never been able to catch it until this time. This time we actually caught it on film. You actually see her walk down the stairs. The curtains actually move and everything.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
So that's my residual story. It only took me 10 investigations to catch it, but I caught it. So
it takes time. You got to practice.
So residuals definitely happen. So the next kind of investigation is an intelligent haunting.
They're very rare. I believe they happen. I personally have not run into any hauntings I can say are intelligent. Everyone I've personally come across, in my own personal experience, has been a residual. I believe they happen. They have to. You there? Oh, there you are.
I tell you, I guess intelligence hauntings is what we all want. That's what we want. That way we can get that breakthrough proof. I guess my favorite my favorite intelligent haunting right now, the one that I've been telling the story of, lately, for my birthday this year, which is in January. For my birthday this year, we decided to go to the Monroe House up in Indiana.
Okay.
And, because why not? I mean, for a paranormal investigator, that's a great place to spend your birthday. So,
Absolutely.
So,
It's like
so
taking
my
me to
so my birthday is actually January 19th. So January 18th is when the investigation started. So right at midnight, when it actually became my birthday, I decided to do a solo in the basement. In the basement is supposedly where the demonic, malicious, whatever the being
Right.
is. So I decided to set up in the basement and do a solo. So we have the video camera going, and REM pod and everything, and then I have the Paratech and the Apple box.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
So I'm just asking questions. So I ask the first question I ask is, did you die here? Simple question.
Sure.
And the response I got was on the Apple box, and it was yes. And so then I was like, okay, did you die in the house? Because with the row house, that's the important question, because I don't really know. So I was like, did you die in the house? And the response again was on the Apple box, and it said yes. So I was like, okay, we're rolling. So I was like, so next we're going to find out how you died. I was like, so were you killed by a gun? Were you shot? Were you stabbed? Were you killed by a weapon? And the response I got was no. So I was like, okay. I was like, were you physically killed? Were you strangled? Were you beat to death? And again, the response was no. But at this point, I was a little bit confused. And that's actually what I said. I was like, okay, so I'm actually a little bit confused. You said you died in the house. Yes. But you wasn't physically killed or killed by a gun. Yes. I was like, okay. I was like, so let's change our questioning a little bit now. I was like, can you tell me how you died? And then the response I got was fire.
Oh, wow.
Which is also, especially knowing the history of the row house, it's burned down at least 5 times.
Okay, well, there you go. There's some validation to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be an intelligent interaction.
I agree. That would definitely be the signs of an intelligent haunting.
No.
And that's what that is paranormal gold.
So next time we're going to discuss is poltergeist activity.
That's a tricky one. That is a very tricky one. Personally, I've never run across one. I've never run into one. I've often been asked, what's the one paranormal thing you'd want to witness? And I say with no irony and no joking that I would want to witness a demonic possession simply because that might change my views on religion. Poltergeist hauntings are very much the same way for me. I've never witnessed one. I've never seen one. I've seen stuff get moved. I've seen stuff get thrown. We all have, a ball roll across the floor or a chair slide across the floor. That's one thing. A true poltergeist haunting, I've never seen one, but I would so want to. Just to know that it is real.
It's such an interesting thing because now people are even challenging what is a poltergeist activity. There's one theory right now that a poltergeist activity could just be the person's energy manifested into something, and then really, if you really think about it, a poltergeist activity could just be a intelligent haunting that's mad. I mean,
right.
Really before we can discuss poltergeist activity, somebody needs to come up with truly what
A definition of it. I hear, poltergeist activity used rather loosely on the television. A chair moved an inch. That's poltergeist activity. No, it isn't. True poltergeist activity is your entire living room being rearranged. True poltergeist activity is, in my opinion, terrifying.
Right,
I've
right.
never
So,
seen one.
yeah, like you said, we will see things thrown, but poltergeist is stuff thrown at you with purpose, like to throw at you to hurt you or to intimidate you. Most of the stuff that we see moved and thrown is to get our attention. Poltergeist is not to get your attention; they're to injure you or get you out.
Exactly.
So let's talk about malicious spirits. So you know, and,
Yeah.
so malicious spirits are different than demonic spirits. So let's talk about malicious spirits right now.
Malicious spirits are obviously a thing. There's light and dark in the world. So if there are good spirits, which I truly believe there are, then by force of logic, there would absolutely have to be bad spirits, malicious spirits, spirits that um, maybe they were hateful in life. Maybe they were just mean people and they liked being mean. It could be that easy. So yeah, there absolutely are malicious spirits. There absolutely are. I encountered one in Moundsville, in cell 13. I'll never forget it because I was we excuse me, he's a cat. Uh, he
He wants to be on
we,
TV.
he did. We were just taking the tour again, and I felt like a match point on the back of my neck. When I got out, there was just a little spot, but it was enough to make me go, okay. It doesn't, to me, contact doesn't have to be the 3 scratches. It doesn't have to be a push. It can be just that. And it was,
Right.
and it was enough,
Right.
So yeah, malicious spirits, absolutely. There can't be
Yeah.
darkness without the light.
Right. Right. It's like I said earlier, if you're a dickhead alive, you're gonna be a dickhead afterlife. So
Exactly.
I think it's important, like you said, people need to realize that a touch is a touch. Them touching you lightly might be that might be all the energy they have. And we already talked about the spirit that we ran into at Anderson Hotel. We ran into that one of the times that we was at the hospital there in Cairo. We were actually I was actually hosting another team there. I was actually hosting JB Coates, if you know JB. She's with I was showing I was hosting JB there, and JB's slang is she likes to go live on TikTok or whatever. So
Right.
so JB was going live on TikTok, and while she was talking, I get a scratch across my face.
Oh man.
Live on TikTok,
Just
and like you said, it was just one scratch. It wasn't 3. It was just one. But that's
that's
all it
all
needed.
that's all you need. That's all it has to be.
Right. All right. So the next one we're going to talk about, I guess, is the most controversial one right now because we have all these YouTubers screaming the D word. So that's what we're going to talk about now. And let's talk about demonic hauntings.
Demonic hauntings. I don't know how to say this, and it's probably going to put me on a list somewhere, but I don't think they exist. I think they're either good or bad, light or dark, malicious or not malicious. I think demonic is just a stronger word for a malicious spirit. I don't think that demonics are so, like you said, controversial because there is the religious aspect to it. Do they exist? I can't say. I really couldn't say. I don't know how to answer that. So I'm going to put it out this way. I think demonic hauntings are a possibility. Just as I believe that demonic possession is a possibility. Until I see clear evidence that it's a demonic presence. I'm talking like, I don't know. I don't know what that clear evidence would be. Maybe a pentagram burned into my chest. I don't know. But I would just file it under a malicious spirit. I don't think that demonic is used correctly. A true demonic haunting is something that nobody would want to experience. If you look throughout historical records, demonic hauntings are historically something that involves not just a priest, but the entire clergy, the entire community to dispel the haunting. And it never works out well for the possessed or for the priest or for the community. Something always goes drastically wrong because you're dealing with the devil. It's a tough one. I believe they're a possibility.
So I guess I'm going to have to put on my religious hat for a minute.
That's totally fine.
So let me start out by saying, I believe that there are demonic hauntings. I believe that you're talking about less than 1%. I mean, way less than 1%. So I think it's important. People have to understand what a true demonic haunting is. So to truly be demonic, it was never human. You're talking about an inhuman spirit. So that's to me. So people try to put the demonic. It's just a Christian Catholic thing, but really,
I think demonic is used wrong. I think they use the word demonic incorrectly.
Yeah, if you actually study the actual belief of the demons, it goes back to the Aztec religion, and so. But I mean, the important thing is, to be a true demonic haunting, it has to be inhuman. It was never human. I am, as we discussed earlier, I'm actually a trained demonologist. I've never done. I don't even know if I'm qualified to do an exorcism. I don't want to ever do one. I don't ever want to see. I don't want to ever see a demonic haunting.
Right.
But I have that training because I think it's important. Gives me a little bit of credibility, whatever.
Sure. I mean, knowledge is power, and any knowledge is good knowledge.
Right. So there is not a demon in every place you go to, like they try to tell you on the YouTube. Sam Cooley. So less than 1%. So, and like James said, if it is a true demonic, it's something that you do not want to deal with.
Not at all.
It's something you can't deal with unless you're actually trained. And then, and honestly, not to get too far into the religious standpoint, in order to fight a demon, it wouldn't be me fighting a demon. It'd be the power of Jesus, the power of God, because I can't fight.
And that's why it would involve the whole clergy, the whole community.
Right.
You would need that religious strength of fortitude, of solidarity, of community to pull it off, at least according to the medieval texts.
Right. And the other thing people have to realize is a demon has to be invited. A demon can't just haunt a place. They have to be invited. They can. There's ways they can be accidentally invited, but they still have to be invited.
Right.
And especially to be possessed, they have to be allowed in. There's things that alcoholism, drugs, that kind of stuff invites them in. So we can talk about demonic hauntings, what a demon is for hours. But the point is, demonic hauntings are rare. It's something you don't
very
want to see.
Rare, in my opinion. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Zach and all those people on TV, they could not handle a real demonic haunting. So they can scream about it all they want to. But
I couldn't agree with you more. We laugh every time we click on that show because we're like, oh, it's 5 minutes in, he already got possessed. We missed it,
Right. Right. So, that's a question I usually ask, and I'm probably not going to, I usually talk a little bit about the parapop culture. That's my word. You like that word, parapop culture? I usually talk a little bit about the parapop culture, and I guess I'll go ahead and ask the question since I started it. So, how do you feel the parapop culture has helped the paranormal?
I believe
how do you think it's affected? How do you think it's affected the field both positively and negatively.
Well, that can easily positively. It's brought more people to the field. It's brought it to a wider audience. People who maybe were into it and didn't feel like they were. They thought they were weird. They're like, oh wait, there are other people who are into it. That's great. Me too. But negatively, you have people like Zach and who
Kobe
capitalize on it horribly. Yeah, there's good and bad to it, but I think it's done more good. The bad that's attached to it is attached to 2 or 3 people, maybe 2 or 3 groups. But like I said, the greater good, it's brought more people. It's brought it to a wider audience. It's given it more scope. We went to the Penhurst Paracon, and there were so many people there. It was unbelievable. There were more people there than there would have been when it was a hospital. It was that packed. And just short 15 years ago, you couldn't have filled a gymnasium for a Paracon fall. But now it's great. It's great to see so many people interested in the same field in a pseudoscience, but people love it, and no matter what anybody tells me, even if they say, you know what, I hear you're a ghost hunter. I don't believe in ghosts, but let me tell you what happened this one time. Everybody's got a story,
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. So, from bringing it personal to me, like we discussed earlier, especially with my guests, I got growing up, I got a lot of, oh, you're a tool of the devil, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So now, thanks to the parapop culture, and I guess honestly, I'm part of that, even though I'm a nobody. But but I still get some of that being here in the Bible, the heart of the Bible. But I get a lot more of the. Oh, you mean like ghost hunters, or like you said, let me tell you the story. So it's opened up the discussion. We have a few teams that we have, especially the YouTubers. The YouTubers is the worst. And there's some good YouTubers, 1 or 2, but for the most part, YouTube is a wasteland. But but it has brought it to a righter thing. So yeah, I agree with that. And it was pointed out to me by Sarah, from Get Haunted when she was on my show last year. She's like, Kent, I know those teams aggravate you and stuff. She's like, but you have to realize that the people who tune into those people, those ain't the same people that's going to tune in to see my videos, because those people just tuning in to be entertained. They're not tuning in to see what it's really about. So
right. But see, I think the people that are tuning in to be entertained, that's a stepping stone, because then they're like, well, you know what? That looks like fun. We could go do that. I know this guy right around the corner. He does that, and I think that's great.
I agree. I have a couple members of my team. They specifically told me that they got into it because of tats, or because of Ghost Adventures. And of course, when they say Ghost Adventures, I roll my eyes. But
well, I do too. But that's
but once I get them in, I can train them properly. So
you can dispel all that. It doesn't happen every night.
Right.
I can't stress enough to people that there are so many nights that nothing at all happens.
It's like fishing.
Exactly. You could spend all night in the same spot and nothing would happen. Come back 6 weeks later, and then all of a sudden everything happens. That's just like you said, it's like fishing.
Yep, I tell people that. We actually, like I said, my team's a large team, but you can't just join Kids in Paranormal. There's a process. Right. You come to me or one of my team leads, and you're like, I want to join, and then me and my team leads will actually do like an interview. We'll actually talk to you, and then if we think you're actually serious about being in the field and fit in the team, then we bring you into we do a monthly meeting. So we'll bring you into the next meeting, and we do an orientation. So we will orientate you, and then we assign you to a trainer. We have a trainer on our team, so you go with a trainer, and how long that is depends on the individual.
Right.
I've had some people that took out training after 2 investigations. I have other people that I've kept the training for 6 months. So, it just depends. But yeah. So yeah, I'm like you. I think for the most part, it's been a good thing. And I got some really good friends in the paranormal.
I do too. I would have never met John Zaffis or any of those guys if I hadn't gotten into the field.
Right. So like we already mentioned, Gavin's a really good friend of mine, and then I'm really good friends with Aaron G. Thompson, and through my little Paracon I put on it every year. Matter of fact, Aaron G. Thompson and Gavin Kelly were my 2 headliners last year. This year I got Jimmy Ricker coming from Outlaw Paranormal, and then I got Josh Morris coming from Tips Paranormal, and then I've already got. I guess I'm going to announce this now because I've already kind of started. But next year, we won't say yet. But
okay. I got time for one more question, and then I got to go.
Actually, that's the last question. We're going to close it with just tell everybody what you got going on and how to find you and all that fun stuff.
All right. Well, let me just say thanks for having me. You
welcome.
Can find me on Facebook. There's my name right there. I've never done this before. I've always wanted to do that. There's my name right there. Okay. You can find me on Facebook. Also, check out my blog. It's goblinwoodpress.blogspot.com. Check me out. Give me a like, and I hope to see you guys there. Thanks for having me, Ken. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
I enjoyed it, James, and I'm going to get this in there real fast, and then I'll let you go because you said you have to go. But next year, I call my event a Paranormal Expo. But I am putting together the lineup for next year, and I'll love to add you to the lineup. So,
hey man, keep me in mind. I'll definitely be there.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us again this week. Next week, I have it should be an interesting episode. I have a heavy metal drummer turned paranormal investigator. So that should be interesting. He actually has a book. His book is Drumming Up the Dead. So his name is Gene Boomer Greer. So he'll be my guest next week. So that should be good. And everybody, if you want to help me publish my book, I have a GoFundMe account. You can look it up. And we will see everybody next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, live paranormal.